Yi Qianxin stepped further back as the fear in her heart gradually surfaced, swelling rapidly. She had lost the feeling of fear for many years, but it appeared again today, so much so that she totally forgot her plan. Zhou did not even look at the cultivators below the Brahmasi realm. As for those struggling divine court experts, it was only a matter of time before they were defeated. Even the top 10 nascent divinity tribulation experts had fled at the sight of him, let alone this group of divine court juniors. His eyes were fixed on Yi Qianxin while he lightly raised a hand. Right then, an overwhelming force grabbed Wang Fugue over like a giant hand. Ah! Wang Fugue lost control of his body, and his neck was clutched in Zhou's hand in the next instant. Everyone in the world knows about the Imperial token, so how could Morong Hai not identify it? You shouldn't get in the way. This man was indeed an assassin Yi Qianxin had planted in the CI family's residence. When he saw Zhou and little Yuaner for the first time, he was not sure if they were the villain and the Patriarch of Golden Court Mountain. However, when he got the token, he confirmed everything and continued to act according to Yi Qianxin's plan. He thought of assassinating Zhou in the middle of the night, but he always felt that this old man was not the Patriarch of Golden Court Mountain. He was afraid of the latter, and also feared that he would ruin Yi Qianxin's plan. So he did not do it. Wang Fugue's feet parted from the ground, and he gradually became breathless. His face reddened. You can't kill me. Every divine court expert was backed by at least one or more powers. But did that matter? Was there any power in the world that could frighten the villainous Patriarch? No. Crack. Zhou wore an indifferent expression as he closed his fingers. Wang Fugue's head tilted and his eyes rolled upward, his neck broken. Ding! You have killed a divine court evil man, and are rewarded with 200 merit points. The reward was richer. The killing hastened Yi Qianxin's steps, and the crimson flying chariot suddenly drifted down from the sky. She held back the shock in her heart as she flicked her sleeve and said, "He can't last for too long. Don't be afraid." Even as she said that, she leaped onto the chariot, turned it around, and sped away. Zhou glanced around and found about 15 divine court experts. The rest of the cultivators, about 100 people, were all Brahmasi cultivators. Pan Zhong, I'm giving you an opportunity. Ah! Pan Zhong was scared out of his wits. He was shivering all over as he said, "Senior, I was under orders and have no intention of being your enemy. Please spare my life, Senior." Pan Zhong knew that it was almost impossible for him to escape from such a mighty expert, and that he might have a chance to live if he begged for mercy. Even though he knew this evil villain killed people without batting an eye. "Kill all Brahmasi cultivators, and I will give you the 6-yang technique," said Zhou lightly. "To live or to die, it is up to you to choose." Zhou slowly raised a hand. Over him, Witzer descended from the sky, wreathed in bits of starlight. A legendary mount. Pan Zhong was horrified. It was said that the villainous Patriarch of Golden Court Mountain had held sway over the world for nearly 1,000 years and owned countless treasures, cultivation techniques, and weapons. It seemed to him now that those were not just some rumors. "Yuaner, bring your father away and wait for my return at Blue Sun Mountain." "I understand, Master." Little Yuaner brought her father up Witzard's back. The mount gave a cry and stepped on auspicious clouds, disappearing into the sky under the watchful eyes of everyone. Right then, Pan Zhong immediately made up his mind. He dropped his knees and cupped his fists as he said, "I'm willing to serve, Senior." "Ding, you have obtained a subordinate and are rewarded with 100 merit points. Pan Zhong, Divine Court Realm, 5% loyalty, cultivation technique, 3 Een styles." "Very good." Zhou kicked the ground and catapulted himself into the sky, his aura exploding out like a fierce storm. The remaining divine court experts looked at the sky in panic. "Yi Qianxin has run away. Damn it. Retreat. Yi Qianxin has done us great harm. How could she do this to us?" It was a few breaths later that they saw the crimson flying chariot already fly far into the distance. At that moment, they quickly produced their avatars to resist the pressure brought to them by Zhou. Unfortunately, the strongest avatar that could be produced with cultivation base of the Divine Court Realm was a 10 worlds avatar, which did not even have a chance to open a leaf. There was no way they could resist Lu Zhou's explosive energy. Avatar, 100 Tribulations Insight, an avatar that stood 100 feet tall and measured 20 feet in width, emerged. All the animals and birds within 10 miles fled in panic when they sensed a powerful pressure. Right then, Lu Zhou pointed out his fingers like a sword, and beams of sword light began to appear. He's so strong. Pan Zhong was completely overwhelmed by the sheer strength of Lu Zhou. Since there's an opportunity, why don't I grasp it? The old villain, no, Senior's cultivation base is so strong. Why would he lie to me? Pan Zhong felt a surge of confidence, and when he thought of what happened in the past, he laughed wildly. Since the world is laughing at me for becoming evil, I'll become evil. After laughing, his eyes suddenly turned ruthless and energy exploded out his 3 Yin styles. You all are going to die. He was a divine court expert, so it was very easy for him to deal with those Brahma seed cultivators already brought down by Lu Zhou's energy blast. It was like an eagle catching chicks on the ground. For a moment, miserable cries and shrieks rang without an end. The eyes of those Brahma seed cultivators grew wide as fear cut into their bones. They could not understand why the divine court expert, who was the old villain's enemy, suddenly turned over and attacked them. Flesh and blood flew in all directions while broken limbs scattered the ground. The strong smell of blood stung Pan Zhong's nostrils and nerves. The divine court experts flying backward did not have the time to help their companions down below. They only had one thought in their minds: I need to survive this. The imperfect divine intervention of the Divine One technique. A cultivator with a discerning, I recognize Lu Zhou's move. It was very similar to the scene when the Orthodox sects besieged Golden Court Mountain. Spread out. Spread out. Shouts and cries echoed out into the surroundings. At the moment Lu Zhou unleashed the sword beams, they suddenly turned black, and dark clouds rolled in the sky. The Sword Devil's destiny. It was a Guiyuan sword technique, the famous ultimate skill of Yu Shangrong, one of the villains of Golden Court Mountain. Unfortunately, it was already too late by the time they realized it. Those black sword beams were too fast, and they shot over like a sudden downpour. Even nascent divinity tribulation experts would not survive under the attack. There were no screams, no counterattacks, and no room to turn the situation around. The rain of black sword beams pierced their chests like arrows. Lu Zhou had perfectly demonstrated that all schemes and plots were useless in the face of absolute power. Ding, you have killed 15 Divine Court cultivators and are rewarded with 3,000 merit points. Lu Zhou's face was calm. There was no need to verify their death, and it was pointless to do so. He looked ahead as his figure flickered, and he disappeared together with the huge avatar in the next instant. It was one of his great divine abilities, the soul chase. Yi Tianxin's brow frowned tightly as she mustered all her energy to move the chariot. There were few in the world that could catch up with the chariot when it was flying at full speed, save for those who knew great divine abilities. However, Yi Tianxin was not a common cultivator. She was a master of the derived moon palace. The leader of a power, a person of her status, always had a backup plan. Why is the old thing stronger than he was at his peak? She could not figure it out. The wind whistled in her ears and blew her face red. She had dismissed the energy shield so that the chariot could fly at its full speed. She looked back over her shoulder, worried. All she saw was the empty, blue sky. It seems that the old thing had unleashed his 100 Tribulations Insight avatar just now. Yi Tianxin's lips twisted into a smile. There's still time. She was about to make the chariot dive downward when she heard a buzzing noise. It was the resonance produced by the emergence of great energy. Who goes there? Yi Tianxin turned around. The chariot disappeared and waves of energy wrapped her up like water. Lu Zhou's 100 Tribulations Insight avatar was right in front of her, 100 feet high and 20 feet wide, with 8 leaves, no, with 9 leaves beneath it. Its 9th leaf had bloomed. You are an evil disciple. Lu Zhou performed an incantation gesture. Master! Yi Tianxin's eyes widened in disbelief. Under the pressure of the avatar, Lu Zhou's hand seal transformed into a bright cage and fell down toward Yi Tianxin. The fiend monk's hand seal. Yi Qianxin felt a deep sense of despair. How much strength did this old man hide? He is stronger than any experts I've met. His first attack was already the strongest move. Amorous Hoop. Yi Qianxin's indomitable spirit drove her to counterattack, and a weapon that gleamed like the moon appeared. Zhou said faintly, "I gave you the weapon, and I can take it back any time I want." The fiend monk's hand seal suddenly changed its course. Yi Qianxin was not its target. "Come back!" "No!" Yi Qianxin screamed. One of the greatest things that Yi Qianxin had relied on to climb up to where she was today was this amorous hoop, a heaven-grade weapon. The amorous hoop, as its name implied, was a hoop but with sharp edges. When a cultivator filled it with energy, its power would be even more terrifying. The amorous, in its name, did not symbolize love, but hatred. It meant that no matter what it tangled with, it would never let go. Yi Qianxin watched as the amorous hoop, which had accompanied her for 10 years, get trapped by Zhou's powerful fiend monk's hand seal and lose its luster. Boom! She wanted to stop it and take back her weapon. If she lost it, her strength would be greatly reduced even if she managed to escape today. The power of the blue waves technique exploded out of her, pouring toward Zhou like waves. Unfortunately, she was facing her former master, an opponent who knew the blue waves technique better than her. Break! Waves that were stronger than hers exploded out of Zhou's body and rushed toward her. When compared to them, Yi Qianxin's waves were as insignificant as a tiny stream. In the next instant, she was drowned by the huge waves that blotted out the sky. Bam! One of the waves hit her in the chest. She snorted as blood rushed up to her throat and spewed out of her mouth, and then she fell from the sky. Soul chase. Zhou's figure flickered, and he reached the ground in the blink of an eye. Yi Qianxin's whole body was in great pain, and her mind went blank. The moment the stronger waves crashed down on her, she knew she was defeated. However, she could not understand why the old thing still used soul chase after she was defeated. Was he trying to show off his prowess? In the face of Zhou, whose every move was an ultimate skill, her heart was filled with despair. This old thing just doesn't give me any hope. Zhou fixed his eyes on the falling Yi Qianxin. At the same time, he kept his eyes, ears, and mind wide open. He needed to be sure if any other villainous disciples were hiding nearby. His avatar had provided him with a powerful perception, but a pity that he found none of them. Anyhow, he found it to be strange. Yi Qianxin should not have the courage to do such a thing by herself. He slowly raised a hand and energy poured out of it, surrounding Yi Qianxin's body and tightly binding her up. Soon, she slowly landed in front of him, supported from below by the special energy. Ding! You have captured a villainous disciple, the sixth disciple Yi Qianxin. You are rewarded with 1,000 reward points. Their eyes met. There was only a gap of 2 meters between them. Yi Qianxin's eyes were filled with fear and shock. She had never been so afraid before, not even when she first arrived at Golden Court Mountain to learn from Ji Tiandao. They were too close to each other. Her heart began to beat violently, and her breathing became rapid and suppressed. Meanwhile, Zhou's expression remained the same. The feeling of being at his peak made his heart as calm as still water. When one had strength, one had confidence and vigor. Yi Qianxin, he said lightly, but the words struck into her heart like thunder. You had deserted the sect and betrayed me. What do you want, old thing? I'll take back everything I gave you. Ah! Yi Qianxin trembled all over. Her eyes widened, and her face, which was slightly blushed, turned deathly pale. She wanted to beg for mercy, but she found that the old villain in front of her had lifted a hand as if there was no room for discussion. The old hand held a ball of powerful energy. It lightly waved, throwing the ball at her, which shot straight into her dantian. She was stunned as she heard the wall of her dantian, which she had spent years cultivating, crack and shatter like glass. In the next instant, it blew apart like a balloon, and all the energy inside leaked into the surroundings. This meant that she had become an ordinary person now. She had lost all her cultivation base. For a cultivator, there was nothing crueler in this world than destroying his or her cultivation base. To become stronger, Yi Qianxin willingly joined Golden Court Mountain without fear. After going through hardships and making a lot of effort, she finally reached her present status and achievements. But now, all of that was gone with the destruction of her dantian. She was completely struck dumb, so much so that she forgot the pain of her body and how to think. After a brief moment of paralysis, a severe and excruciating pain swept through her, filling her with misery. In just a blink of an eye, her forehead was covered with beads of sweat. Yi Qianxin smiled sadly and raised her head with difficulty. At this moment, all the fear in her vanished. The expression on her face looked like crying, but at the same time, it also looked like laughing. Old thing, kill me now? Huh? Zhou noticed that her hostility had surged to 60%, and doubts arose in his mind. Although Ji Tiandao was short-tempered, had done all the evil things that one could imagine, and always scolded and beat his disciples, he had never done anything that could make someone hate him so much. Why did Yi Qianxin hate Ji Tiandao so much? Anyhow, it was meaningless to know that now. Everything Zhou did, he did it to protect himself. You are too stubborn. Zhou lifted a hand and slapped her face. Consequently, a red handprint appeared on her pale cheek. You're welcome to torture or kill me. Ha ha, ha ha. Yi Qianxin laughed shrilly and stared at the ground. Poor fourth senior brother and third senior brother. They could have escaped the disaster. Why? It's all your fault. You've killed them. From today on, there will be no Golden Court Mountain in this world. When she had finished, she laughed again. She wanted to infuriate Zhou, but it was a pity that Zhou remained impassive. He glanced at the remaining time of the peak form card on the system panel. He had only 5 minutes left. He would not make it in time even if he used Soul Chase. However, the system did not inform him anything about his third and fourth disciples, which meant their lives were not in danger. His fourth disciple was not stupid. How would he risk his life? Zhou just said one word. Fool! Are you scolding me? Yi Qianxin paused. That was not how the old villain used to scold her. No one will dare to bully Golden Court Mountain as long as I'm still alive. Yi Qianxin swallowed as she looked at Zhou's confident look. She recalled her fifth senior sister's words. Master has become different from before. However, she did not expect him to become so unpredictable and unfathomable. Zhou put one hand on her shoulder. In response, she cried out and closed her eyes with fear. I'm still alive? When she opened her eyes again, she saw that they were flying in the sky. A layer of invisible energy shield had wrapped them, blocking the strong wind. Swoosh! Ah! It was her master's great divine ability, the Soul Chase. Why? Why can this old thing keep using Soul Chase? Does he not need to muster energy? How does he do it?